SEC Power Rankings are now. I'm going to agree or disagree with you. By agree would be
Hey now.
And disagree is either
that's crazy
or
you suck. You duck-ass.
All right, give me like 16 through 10. Let's get this ship moving.
Okay. Well, I'll stop at 11 because I think 10 we got to be fair to. So 16 through 11. Mississippi State's still the worst team in the SEC. I don't think there's any debate about that.
Yes.
Auburn is the second worst team in the SEC. They're number 15. No debate about that. I know they played hard, but because of how everything else went over the weekend, I still got Kentucky down at number 14 in the SEC right now.
That's crazy.
I test they're better than 14. Let me see who you got at 13.
You could maybe talk me into them at 13 because I have Oklahoma at 13. And
I would say with Brock Vandegrift, if he's out extensive time, I would say Kentucky. If he's back, I would say Oklahoma's the worst between the two. But I know that's a lot to get into. We may not even know if Brock Vandegrift's okay. He was walking kind of kooky there on the sideline. All right, what's next?
By the way, did you know that Jalen Milroe is the only quarterback to finish a game against Tennessee this year that started?
I actually did know that. That's pretty stunning. Yep.
All right, number 12 is Arkansas. I know they gave up a lot of points to Ole Miss over the weekend, but I mean, Ole Miss that's more about when Ole Miss decides to play, and when they don't, Arkansas can still be a dangerous team at any given moment.
Hey now.
The other thing that's about is at some point you break the levee, and Lane Kiffin wanted to pile on points. I don't know the halftime score off the top of my head, but I guarantee you 2 of those touchdowns, scoring 55 points, were not needed. Fair to say?
I agree. I totally agree. Number 11 I have Florida up at number 11 right now. You may have them lower, but they played Georgia close thanks to Carson Beck throwing a bunch of interceptions. Dave, I actually have to send I'll send this when I get to Georgia because it's going to be funny because there's this funny tweet that came out about Georgia about Carson Beck. But Florida's number 11 right now.
That's crazy.
They're worse than that.
Which of those teams would you have Kentucky over Florida? Oklahoma? I mean, Florida just beat
Kentucky over Florida. I'd have Oklahoma over Florida.
I can't. Florida just beat Kentucky 48-20 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I see where you're coming from, but I look at that Florida team and they're I will give you this. You need to root for Florida because they're fighting for Billy Napier for whatever reason. And that's good if Billy Napier keeps that job. So you need to root for the Gators, not only for Tennessee's strength of schedule, but lack of strength of opponent in the future.
That's true. That's a good point. Okay, so
seriously, if Josh Heupel and Billy Napier sit down to play chess, how many moves does it take Heupel to beat Billy Napier? I'm going to go with the over/under 7.5, and doesn't have to pull the queen out.
I'll go over 7.5. Okay. Now Butch Jones under 7.5, but I think Billy Napier's smarter than Butch Jones. How about that? I think he's smarter than Butch Jones. He's smarter than Butch.
I want to go equal, short bus, both of them. All right. Who's next?
We can't make short bus jokes. Okay.
I didn't mean that. Okay, go ahead.
I like PC Police Dave. I don't mean to do that, guys. But
I know. Yeah, I accidentally said midget. I'm sorry, the M word last week. Go ahead.
All right. So number 10. I got Vanderbilt at number 10. Congratulations to them for staying in the top 25. Dave, you ready for this stat?
Yes.
In 2022, Diego Pavia beat Hugh Freeze at Liberty 49-14. Last year, while with New Mexico State, he beat Hugh Freeze at Auburn 31-10. And then this year, while the quarterback at Vanderbilt, he beat Hugh Freeze at Auburn again. So Diego Pavia has beaten Hugh Freeze each of the last 3 years when either of them was on a different team. He owns Hugh Freeze and he owns the state of Alabama because on top of those 3 wins, he also beat Alabama earlier in the year. Diego Pavia just owns Alabama pretty much.
All right. State. Yes, he does. I saw that, and they should have recruited him. By the way, the new poll question: I'm rooting for Florida blank to help Ball's strength of schedule to keep Billy Napier, or I just can't root for Florida. Caleb, who's next?
Who is next is number 9 is Missouri. They're number 9 right now. I have them ahead of Vanderbilt just because of that time they beat Vanderbilt, but they're number 9.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible fall from Missouri, who, listen, I didn't think was one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the SEC, but I thought they were in the top half.
Hey now.
All right, who's next?
All right, number 8, South Carolina. I told you they were going to put up a fight against Texas A&M, but even I didn't believe they were going to beat Texas A&M like that.
What a
But-
shakeup.
Hey now.
All right,
It
I'll
is.
give you them.
Number 7 is now we get to the 2-loss teams that are all in contention for the college football playoff. Now technically Missouri is in contention for the college football playoff, but they're not really in contention for the college football playoff.
I don't like their chances.
Yeah. So number 7 to me is Ole Miss. I think they're the worst of the teams right now in contention for the playoff. I'm not changing from last week. They still have that home loss to Kentucky. Still the worst loss of any team. None of the other teams would come close to losing that game that are in this race.
I think Ole Miss feels better than where you have them, but the Kentucky loss was bad. All right, what's next?
Yep. Number 6 is LSU. Didn't play this week. They did lose to Texas A&M last week, but they're still in it, and I still think they could. If they beat Alabama, they're right back to where they were before. So LSU's number 6.
Yep, I agree with that.
Hey now.
Number 5 is I dropped Texas A&M to number 5. I don't overreact to these type of games like the loss to South Carolina. That was a dangerous game for them from the start. When you have such an emotional win the week before, you're traveling to a very good South Carolina team for a night game. Not very good, but very dangerous. That's capable of these upsets. You're probably feeling yourself a bit. That's the type. This always happens, Dave, since the history of time. So I don't think
I would drop Texas A&M a little bit further. They have 2 losses on the season, right?
Yeah, but so does LSU and so does Ole Miss.
That to me feels like a hodgepodge where you could throw 3 and pull 1 out to see who's the highest ranked.
I'm head-to-heading it right now. Maybe that's unfair, but Texas A&M beat LSU and LSU beat Ole Miss. So
Okay, fair. Who's next?
number 4 is Alabama. They're back up at number 4, and if they beat LSU this week, they are right back with everything to play for. And that win over Georgia is looking better and better.
The SEC is down. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, I agree. But, we're basing this off a few games, about 5 games that could have gone either way. We're basing this off, if Vanderbilt doesn't give up a last-second defensive touchdown to Georgia State, and if LSU and Texas A&M actually finish the job in their openers against USC and Notre Dame, we're not calling the SEC down. We're saying they're beating up on one another. All 3 of those games came down to 1 play.
All right, who's next, Caleb?
All right, number 3, I got Tennessee at number 3 this week. I think they could be number 2, and they're capable of being number 1, and there's a lot to be encouraged about, but I had to drop them below Texas, who's at number 2, because even though Texas didn't play, that win over Vanderbilt kind of looks more impressive now since Vanderbilt's back in the top 25, even though it was ugly. I'd say beating Vanderbilt 27-24 on the road is more impressive than beating Kentucky 28-18 at home.
Agree with that.
Hey now.
All right, so 2 and 1. Georgia's got to be number 1, right?
Texas number 2 was number 3. Yeah,
Georgia's number 1.
Georgia's number 1.
Here's the interesting thing about Georgia. If Carson Beck doesn't deliver, we could be having a conversation that they're 5 or 6 at some point. I don't think Texas nor Tennessee could slip that far. Because I think Nico's taking a step, and I think Carson Beck's going the wrong direction.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. My favorite tweeter, y'all know Hannah Cavender. She's a women's basketball player for the Miami Hurricanes. She is Carson Beck's girlfriend. And after the game, she posed with Carson Beck on the field and took a picture and said, QB is a QT. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe you need to back off. Your quarterback played and so someone retweeted that and said QB is SH.
Yeah.
And the word. So yeah. So basically it's like, you don't need to really be bragging about your cutie QB who dare near lost your team the game on his team the game on Saturday.
Yep. SEC Power Rankings brought
Maybe
to
Hannah
you.
Cavender should pull a Kelly Stafford and get the backup quarterback in there to kick Carson Beck into high gear. If y'all know what I'm talking about.
You're suggesting she should date air quotes.
Date.
The
Get seen in the car with the backup quarterback. Have Carson Beck see her in the car dating the backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Hannah Cavender should.
Anytime I think of dates and cars, I think of Rex Ryan and the toe incident, the feet. Remember that?
What was that? What was that again?
Feet. He was with his wife at a park talking about her feet.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Taking him out the door. Whoa, love your feet.
Maybe that's why he started Mark Sanchez over Tim Tebow, because Tim Tebow did not have the best footwork.